Nicholas Freeman stared at the crushed skull of his dog, remembering how the alien overseer Gruss had bashed Max to a bloody pulp. The Ocampa had no idea they had just brutally murdered the closest battle companion of humanity's most lethal super soldier. Freeman sat alone in his utilitarian quarters, the cramped confines of a miner's lodging on the remote Ocampa colony. In his calloused hands, he clutched a faded photo of him and Max side by side in combat gear from their glory days in the Terran-Zorgon War. Back then, Max wasn't just some expendable pet. The highly trained German Shepherd was an elite military asset, same as Freeman. Max's ultra-sensitive nose saved Freeman's squad from dozens of IEDs and alien ambushes. The devoted dog took bullets for his human comrades without hesitation. He was the goodest boy until the end. Freeman clenched his jaw, remembering when that 7-foot lizard Gruss towered over Max's broken body, scales gleaming in the harsh mine lighting. With a sneer, Gruss spat on the dog's corpse, proclaiming pets a waste of resources. When Freeman rushed over in a rage, Gruss jammed a plasma blaster under his chin. "Terrans only breathe because we allow it," Gruss hissed, his forked tongue flicking Freeman's nose. "We know all about your Black Ops, Ghost. You're nobody now. Forget the mutt and get back to the mines." That's what all the Ocampa overseers thought, that Freeman was just another faded Terran soldier turned broken-down labor drone. But for 3 months, he had been playing possum, patiently waiting, training in secret. Gruss made 2 mistakes, killing Freeman's dog and thinking Freeman wouldn't kill him back. Now was the time to strike, to show these scaly alien bastards what a Terran Tier 1 operator could do, for Max, for all humanity laboring under the Ocampa's clawed thumb. Freeman would make them regret ever enslaving mankind, even if he died doing it. Freeman moved stealthily through the mining tunnels, his senses honed by years of Black Ops training. He was performing routine maintenance in a distant corner of the sprawling complex when his eyes caught a glint of metal behind a wall panel. Curious, he pried it open to reveal a concealed Ocampa communications relay. Well, what do we have here?" he muttered, examining the alien tech. His mind raced with possibilities. This could be just the break he needed. Over the next few days, Freeman scavenged parts from around the mine, rigging together a crude interface to hack the Ocampa system. It was slow going, but he'd always had a knack for tech. Finally, he cracked the encryption, and a trove of classified military files flooded his screen. One in particular caught his eye: Project Necrosis. Schematics showed a hidden weapons lab deep beneath the mine, accessible only through a secret lift in Gruss's office. General Morlat, Gruss's brother and military head, was developing some kind of biological agent to unleash on Terran colonies. Freeman's blood ran cold imagining the devastation it could cause. He downloaded the intel onto a makeshift drive. He had to infiltrate that lab, destroy the bioweapon, and get this information to the Alliance. But the lab's security was formidable, multi-layered bioscans keyed to Ocampa DNA and physiology. Freeman flexed his hands. He'd need a disguise, something to fool the scanners. His gaze fell on an Ocampa guard passing by, and a dark plan took shape. Over the next week, Freeman stalked the mine, abducting lone Ocampa and dragging them to a secluded maintenance shed. With grim precision, he used a plasma scalpel to flay patches of scales from their screaming bodies, then disposed of the corpses in the magma furnace. Slowly, Freeman assembled a grisly patchwork skin suit from the scales. For the retinal scanner, he studied Ocampa anatomy diagrams, practicing surgical techniques to cleanly extract eyeballs on his captives. The work sickened him, but he swallowed the bile. He'd do whatever it took to complete this mission. Finally, Freeman was ready. A solar storm hit the mine, driving the Ocampa into shelters and leaving the colony barely staffed. Donning his skin suit, Freeman slipped into the headquarters air ducts to bypass security. He dropped into the empty halls and prowled the corridors until an Ocampa lieutenant crossed his path. The officer barely had time to register shock before Freeman pounced. A snap of the neck, and Freeman swiftly scooped out the twitching eyeball. He held it up to Gruss's office scanner and the door clicked open. Freeman allowed himself a grim smile. Time to get to work. Nicholas crept through the bioweapons lab, sweat dripping down his scarred face as he planted C-12 charges on vital equipment. His breath was heavy in the confines of his grisly skin suit. Just a few more, and he could bring this whole twisted place down, burying the Ocampa's foul plans. Suddenly, the hiss of an airlock. Nicholas spun to see a containment-suited Ocampa scientist entering the lab, freezing in shock at the sight of the intruder. Nicholas lunged, smashing the reptilian alien against the bulkhead with a vicious crack. The scientist lashed out with surprising strength, talons ripping through Nicholas's disguise to the flesh below. Nicholas snarled at the sting. Grappling for advantage, they crashed into a medical table in a shower of glass and strange instruments. The Ocampa grabbed for a gleaming tool, a whirring bone saw. He brought it screeching down as Nicholas barely twisted aside. The saw bit deep into the metal table. Nicholas grabbed the Ocampa's head and smashed it against the edge once, twice, until the alien went limp. An alarm blared and warning lights strobed. The scientist must have triggered some failsafe. Biological containment breach detected, a robotic voice announced. Initiating lockdown. Glass doors began slamming down. Nicholas sprinted for the exit, rolling under a descending barrier at the last second. Charges planted. It was time to get the hell out. Alarms screaming, he pounded down the corridor back towards Gruss's office. Booted feet echoed from adjacent hallways. Security forces closing in. No time to be subtle. Nicholas kicked in the door to Gruss's spacious office. He crossed to the large desk and jammed a drive into the computer terminal. His fingers flew across the controls. Come on. Come on. Data flashed across the screen as classified files downloaded. Weapons specs, fleet deployments, black site locations. A trove of Ocampa military secrets. 97%, 98%, 99%. The office door exploded inward. Gruss stormed in, a full strike team at his back. Surrender, Terran filth! Gruss leveled his plasma rifle. The download completed with a ding. Nicholas snatched the data drive. Plasma bolts sizzled through the air. Nicholas leapt, twisting sideways, and smashed through the floor-to-ceiling window behind Gruss's desk. Razor shards sliced his skin as lightning forked the sky. For a frozen second, Nicholas hung suspended, framed by jagged glass. Then he plummeted into the howling sandstorm 4 stories below. Gruss rushed to the blasted-out window, peering into the maelstrom of whipping sand and wind. No sign of the human, no blood trail, no splattered body, nothing. Find him, Gruss snarled at his troops. I want that Terran corpse. But after hours scouring the area, the Ocampa reported back empty-handed. It was as if Nicholas had vanished into the storm. Seething, Gruss initiated an emergency comlink to his brother. General Morlat, he snapped. We have a situation. My base has been compromised. The human... We have bigger problems, Morlat cut in, his voice ragged. I'm looking at a Category 5 reactor meltdown on Vorkoth Prime. Sabotage. And reports are coming in from across the sector. Attacks on our off-world labs. I think the Terrans... A searing flash lit Morlat's face. Then the feed cut to static. Brother! Gruss headbutted the console in rage. Sparks flew and metal buckled. Thousands of light-years away, in the swirling methane blizzards of Kothis 9, General Morlat stared numbly at a flickering holoconsole. On the screen, a battered human face smirked back, flinty grey eyes glinting. Morlat, Nicholas Freeman rasped, holding up a data drive between bloody fingers. Thought you'd like to know your brother's present is en route to Alliance Command. Schematics for your new stealth ships are about to be in Terran hands. Morlat's scales rippled, his tail thumping. How? I know your secrets. Nicholas leaned forward, his ravaged face filling the screen. I'm coming for you next. The feed went black, leaving Morlat in the howling dark. Nicholas's grim visage flickered on the view screen of the Terran stealth frigate Shadowfang. Admiral Hackett's brow furrowed as he took in the commander's report, transmitted from deep behind enemy lines on the Ocampa homeworld. The bastards never saw us coming, sir. Nicholas said, his voice gravel. Planetary defenses are in ruins. The schematics were good. Hackett nodded. Glad to hear it, Commander Freeman. What's the status of the primary objective? Nicholas's eyes hardened to flint. General Morlat will be neutralized within the hour. It's time to end this. Godspeed, Nicholas. Hackett out. The screen went dark. Nicholas grabbed his plasma rifle, checking the charge. Around him, the stealth transport shuddered as anti-aircraft fire streaked past. The rest of Nicholas's hand-picked commando team readied their gear, faces grim. The ship banked hard, diving through the smoke-choked sky toward a shielded bunker complex. Searchlights stabbed through the gloom, seeking targets. 30 seconds, the pilot yelled. Nicholas stood, muscles coiled. You all know what to do, no mercy. His men nodded, a killer gleam in their eyes. They were the best of the best, each one driven by the loss of beloved companions, butchered by Ocampa claws. The transport's ramp lowered with a hiss, wind howling. Go, go, go! They leapt into the maelstrom, mag boots slamming onto the bunker's armored hull. Nicholas led the charge, his rifle spitting blue plasma bolts as sentry turrets swiveled to engage. The guns exploded in showers of sparks and shrapnel. Breaching positions. The squad split into 3-man teams, mag-locking onto the roof at key junctures. As one, they ripped open access hatches and dropped flashbang grenades into the complex. Thunder and lightning erupted below decks. Execute, Nicholas barked. Stun gas billowed up from the hatches as the Terrans rappelled down into strobing darkness. Panicked shouts echoed off steel bulkheads. Nicholas hit the deck rolling, coming up in a crouch, rifle pulsing. Ocampa soldiers stumbled through the smoke, choking, only to be cut down in ruthless bursts of fire. Alpha team moving to Objective 1. Nicholas's earpiece crackled. Minimal resistance. Beta team on target, another voice reported, punctuated by plasma fire. Downloading now. Nicholas sprinted down the corridor, mag-locking his rifle and drawing a humming power blade. He didn't have time to waste on peons. He was here for one reptile only. A sealed hatch loomed ahead, the words Command Center emblazoned in Ocampan script. Nicholas stabbed his blade into the locking mechanism, the edges glowing white-hot as he carved through the hardened metal like a plasma torch through butter. The hatch shrieked open. Nicholas lunged through the door, his blade flashing as it slashed the throats of 2 Ocampa guards. Arterial blood sprayed the walls. Before their bodies even hit the floor, Nicholas was moving again, vaulting over a bank of consoles towards a figure silhouetted against a massive tactical holo display. Morlat, Nicholas snarled. The general turned slowly, his scales rippling with iridescent menace. You. Me, Nicholas raised his blade. Your brother squealed like a stuck pig when I killed him. Morlat's eyes narrowed to slits. Gruss was always the runt, but no matter, he served his purpose, as did you. Nicholas lunged, his blade arcing for the general's neck, but Morlat was shockingly fast. A clawed hand shot out, clamping around Nicholas's wrist with crushing force. Bone ground against bone. So I think a few wrecked defense platforms will stop us, Morlat hissed, his fetid breath washing over Nicholas. All you've done is anger the true might of the Ocampa. Even now, our fleets rally to burn your pathetic Terran worlds to cinders. Nicholas strained against the iron grip to no avail. Morlat slammed a knee into his stomach, driving the air from his lungs. Stars exploded across his vision. In a way, I must thank you, Morlat continued, smashing a fist into Nicholas's face. Cartilage crunched. Your theft of our ship plans only accelerated our invasion timetable, and now you will die knowing your precious alliance will fall because of you. Blood streamed from Nicholas's broken nose, painting his teeth scarlet as he snarled. You're wrong about all of it. Killing Max, killing our companions, that wasn't a strategy. It was a mistake, one you'll pay for in blood. With a bellow of rage, Nicholas twisted his arm, the servos in his exosuit whining. Morlat's wrist bones shattered like glass. The general howled, his grip failing. Nicholas didn't hesitate. He pounced on Morlat, driving him to the deck in a storm of punches. The general's jaw cracked. Teeth spun across the floor. Nicholas grabbed the Ocampa by the throat, slamming him against the bulkhead. Morlat's eyes rolled in their sockets, fluttering. "The bond between human and animal isn't a weakness, you scaly fuck," Nicholas growled. "It's a strength, one you'll never understand." Reaching over, Nicholas wrenched a long ceremonial staff from the wall. Intricate runes spiraled its length, the Ocampan symbol of ultimate authority. He raised it high overhead. "This is for Max, you son of a bitch." Nicholas brought the staff down like a thunderbolt, the blow crushing Morlat's skull into the wall with a sickening crunch. Gore splattered Nicholas's face as he struck again and again until the general's head was an unrecognizable pulp. Suddenly alarms blared. The bunker's main blast doors exploded inward, and a swarm of heavily armed Ocampa soldiers stormed into the room, plasma rifles leveled at Nicholas's chest. He was surrounded on all sides, with no hope of escape. But Nicholas didn't flinch. Instead, he calmly reached down and tapped a small beacon on his wrist. Far above, in the skies over the Ocampa homeworld, the cloaked Terran battle fleet received the signal they'd been waiting for. Every ship oriented their main guns on the coordinates of the beacon. "Fire!" Admiral Hackett ordered. And the world went white. 1,000 mass accelerator cannons spoke as one, hurling 20-kilogram slugs at 1.3% the speed of light. The Ocampa soldiers had just enough time to glance upward in dawning horror before the bunker disintegrated around them, consumed by a cataclysmic firestorm. Nicholas was blasted into oblivion, his body shredded instantly by the apocalyptic bombardment. A fitting end for the man who gave everything to avenge his faithful companion. An entire megacity vanished in the blink of an eye, transformed into a glowing crater of molten slag. And so the war began in earnest. The Terrans would not stop until Ocampa paid their debt in blood. The galaxy would tremble to the march of human boots, and the enemies of Earth would learn the folly of underestimating the bond between a man and his dog. Gruss stalked the bridge of his command carrier, the Basilisk, his clawed hands clasped behind his back. The acrid stench of burning circuitry and scorched scales hung heavy in the air. A third of his crew were dead, their charred corpses still strapped into their smouldering stations. He glared at the viewing screen, taking in the devastation of the Ocampa homeworld below. Colossal craters marred the once gleaming cities, the ground blasted to molten glass. Black smoke choked the skies. Gruss clenched his jaw until a fang cracked. All this ruin, all this death because of one human. That damn Terran butcher, Nicholas Freeman. He had ravaged Ocampa, shattered their fleets, slaughtered their best and brightest, and now his vile kin were coming to finish the job. Gruss slammed a fist on the command console, the metal buckling under the blow. "Helmsman," he barked, "set course for the Terran colony of New Samarkand. Maximum burn." The helmsman, his scales still flecked with a comrade's blood, hesitated. "But, sir, our ships are in tatters. We barely have a fleet left to command. Surely we should regroup at the fallback point and—" Gruss was on him in a flash, talons sinking into the lesser Ocampa's throat, lifting him bodily from his chair. "You snivelling worm," Gruss snarled. "You would run and hide, now when our species faces annihilation?" The helmsman gurgled, legs kicking weakly. Gruss squeezed, the officer's neck snapping like a dry twig. He hurled the limp corpse across the bridge. "Anyone else care to question my orders?" Gruss swept his burning gaze over the crew. They studiously avoided his eyes. "I thought not. Now get us to New Samarkand." The battered Ocampa fleet, a pitiful collection of scorched and limping ships, broke orbit and accelerated for the nearest jump point. Gruss brooded in his command chair, stroking the long scar Freeman had left across his snout. The Terrans would pay for this humiliation. He would make them watch as he burned their precious colony to ashes. The wails of their dying young would be a balm to soothe the pain of Ocampa's fall. And then, when Freeman's people were drowning in the blood of their families, only then would Gruss allow himself the mercy of death. The Basilisk shuddered as it plunged into the swirling vortex of the jump point. The twisted light of subspace enveloped the bridge, distorting Gruss's snarling features into something truly demonic. On the other side of the galaxy, Admiral Taurus Valen, grim-faced and steel-eyed, watched the tactical holodisplay with clasped hands. The Terran fleet spread out before him, the largest armada ever assembled. 1,000 ships strong, every vessel armed to the teeth and crewed by men and women hungry for vengeance. At the heart of the formation drifted his flagship, the Taz Dauntless. Over 5 kilometers from bow to stern, bristling with enough firepower to glass a planet. She was the pride of the Terran Alliance, the first of the new Vindicator-class dreadnoughts. And now she would spearhead the offensive that would end this war once and for all. Valen keyed the ship-wide comm. "Attention all hands, this is the Admiral. By now you've all heard of the unprovoked Ocampa assault on our mining colonies, the massacres of innocent civilians, the butchery of our brave service animals." He paused, letting the simmering rage of his crew wash over him. "One of our own, Commander Nicholas Freeman, gave his life to bring us the intelligence we needed to launch this counterstrike. His sacrifice will not be forgotten, nor will the blood spilled by every Terran slain at Ocampa claws." Valen leaned forward, his eyes hard as flint. "But no more. Today we end this. Today we bring the full might of humanity crashing down upon the Ocampa. We will make them pay dearly for every life they've stolen. By the time we're done, the lizards will rue the day they ever dared to cross the Terran Alliance." Fierce cheers erupted over the comm from thousands of throats. Cries of "Terra Victorious" and "Remember the Fallen" echoed across the fleet. Valen allowed himself a small smile. "All ships, battle stations, ready main guns and load for bear. The Ocampa should be arriving in system any moment now. Let's be sure to give them a warm welcome." As if on cue, sirens blared across the bridge as dozens of new contacts popped into existence at the system's edge. Ocampa ships, their hulls pitted and scarred, surged toward New Samarkand, plasma cannons already spitting fire. "All ships engage!" Valen roared. "For Terra, for the Fallen!" The Terran fleet swarmed to meet the enemy, the Dauntless leading the charge, weapon blisters along her flanks erupting in dazzling pulses of light. Valen gripped the arms of his command chair as the first Ocampa salvos slammed into the dreadnought's shields, making the deck shudder underfoot. On the Basilisk's bridge, Gruss rose to his feet, eyes wide in disbelief as he beheld the sheer size of the Terran force arrayed before him. This was no ragtag planetary defense force. This was an armada to conquer the galaxy itself. "No," he hissed. "This is impossible. How could they have known?" The forward screen crackled, and Admiral Valen's craggy visage snapped into view. "General Gruss, I presume?" Valen said coldly. "I am Admiral Taurus Valen of the Terran Alliance. Your plan to invade our space is doomed." Gruss snarled in wordless rage, talons gouging into his palms. "Commander Freeman warned us of your coming," Valen continued. "Did you really think his sacrifice would be for nothing, that we wouldn't rally to finish what he started?" The Admiral leaned forward, his face filling the screen. "It's over, Gruss. Surrender now, and I promise you a fair trial before your execution." Gruss slashed a hand through the air. "Terran filth, I will never submit to you. All ships target that dreadnought. Tear it apart." The Ocampa fleet threw itself at the Dauntless in a last desperate attack, weapons blazing. But it was hopeless. The mighty warship shrugged off their assault, her shield's shimmer scarcely even flickering. "So be it," Valen said grimly. "Gunnery full broadside, wipe them out." The Dauntless spoke, her flanks erupting in a single devastating salvo. Incandescent beams of pure energy slammed into the Basilisk, puncturing clean through her armored hull and out the other side. Gruss had just enough time to howl in futile denial before his command ship exploded in a miniature sun, the shockwave atomizing a dozen other Ocampa vessels nearby. In minutes, it was over. The once proud Ocampa war fleet was reduced to drifting wreckage and cooling slag. Escape pods dotted the void, the scattered survivors raising their claws in surrender as Terran Marines swarmed to board them. On the Dauntless's bridge, the crew erupted into wild cheers, hugging and backslapping in unbridled joy. But Admiral Valen remained in his command chair, his face a mask of stone. the weight of the fallen pressed down on him, the faces of those who would never return. His gaze fell on the plaque by his armrest, the burnished metal lovingly etched with the dreadnought's true name and patron, Tar-As Commander Nicholas Ghost Freeman. Valen ran his fingers over the letters, remembering the man who had made this victory possible. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.